How did Rwanda forget its own atrocities so soon? Is 31 years such a long time to cause one to forget their pain? Rwanda has been at the center of the new conflict brewing in DR Congo, and Kagame seem not to budge. A small nation in the heart of Africa, Rwanda was scarred by the horrors of the 1994 genocide. The world watched as it struggled to rebuild. From the ashes, a new Rwanda emerged, a story of resilience, of progress, of a nation determined to rise again. Under the leadership of President Paul Kagame, Rwanda transformed. Economic growth soared, infrastructure blossomed, a beacon of hope in a troubled region. But was this transformation all that it seemed? Was this phoenix rising from the ashes, or was a darker force at play? Behind the gleaming facade of progress, whispers of a different story has begun to emerge. A story of silenced voices, of dissent crushed, of a nation held in the iron grip of a leader who would tolerate no opposition. Rwanda's story has become a tale of two narratives. The international community lauded its progress, pouring in aid and investment. Yet within the country and amongst human rights groups, a different picture has emerged. A picture of a nation where fear and control are the true architects of this so-called miracle. A nation where the ghosts of the past were not laid to rest, but rather used to justify an iron grip on power. Paul Kagame, the man who led Rwanda out of the abyss, hailed as a visionary leader, credited with the country's remarkable turnaround. Yet behind the accolades, a more complex figure emerged, a man who brooked no dissent, who silenced critics with ruthless efficiency. Human rights groups sounded the alarm. Reports emerge of disappearances, of journalists and opposition figures silenced, of a climate of fear that permeates Rwandan society. The government has dismissed these claims as Western propaganda, an attempt to tarnish their hard-won progress. But the whispers persist. Stories of a regime that used the specter of the genocide to justify its authoritarian grip. A regime that sees any opposition as a threat to its carefully constructed narrative of unity and progress. Rwanda, once a symbol of hope, is becoming a cautionary tale. A reminder that progress measured solely in economic terms rings hollow when fundamental freedoms are stifled. A nation where the wounds of the past were not healed, but rather being exploited to maintain a grip on power. Across the border in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a conflict has raged for over a decade. The M23, a rebel group composed mainly of ethnic Tutsis, wage war against the Congolese government. A brutal conflict, fueled by ethnic tensions and a thirst for power. Is there really an ethnic conflict, or is it just an excuse to control the tin, coltan and gold, which are critical for global electronics and industrial production? Evidence mount of Rwanda's involvement. Rwanda, as alleged, is not a bystander in this conflict, but a puppet master, pulling the strings of the M23, using them as proxies to further their own interests. Rwanda has vehemently denied these accusations. The international community, however, is not convinced. Sanctions were imposed, aid was threatened. But the conflict has continued, fueled by the insatiable hunger for resources that lay at the heart of this dirty war. For the M23 is not just fighting for territory or ethnic dominance. They have been fighting for control of something far more valuable. Something that has drawn the attention of powerful forces far beyond the borders of the Democratic Republic of Congo, namely the United States, France, European Union and China. Deep within the Congolese soil lay a treasure trove, a hidden wealth that has sparked a modern-day gold rush. This isn't about the gold or diamonds that have historically driven the world's mining industries. It's about something far more precious in the 21st century, coltan and cobalt. These minerals are the lifeblood of our digital age, the unseen heroes powering our everyday lives. These minerals are essential for our modern world, forming the backbone of the technology we rely on. They are used in everything from smartphones to laptops, making our lives more connected and efficient. From electric cars to military hardware, these minerals are indispensable. They are the fuel that powers the engines of innovation and security. The global demand for these minerals has exploded, driven by the rapid advancement of technology and the insatiable appetite for new gadgets. This demand is the fuel needed for this AI age, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Companies around the world are scrambling to secure their supply, no matter the cost. The race to control these resources has become a high-stakes game, with fortunes and futures hanging in the balance. And in the Democratic Republic of Congo, this scramble is turning deadly. The battle for control of these mines is fueling the conflict, turning the region into a war zone. At least 700 people have been killed and more than 2,800 people injured, according to the United Nations, and hundreds of Congolese have been forced to flee. The human cost is staggering, with lives being lost and communities being torn apart. The M23, backed by Rwanda, has gained control of key mining areas. They now control nearly all of North Kivu and the province's vast mineral wealth. M23. Leader Corneille Nangaa has vowed to continue the march of liberation all the way to Kinshasa, thus the capital of DR Congo. This has only intensified the conflict, drawing in neighboring countries and international attention. On Sunday, February 2nd, 2025, the G7 foreign ministers of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK and the US condemned the Rwanda-backed M23 offensive and urged M23 and Rwanda Defense Force, RDF, to cease their offensive in all directions. The international institutions' leaders, as we know them, are the same masters behind the conflict. The tactics is to use Africans to destroy Africa, and it is unfortunate that African leaders don't learn. Profits from the sale of these conflict minerals flow back across the border, filling the coffers of those who have orchestrated this brutal conflict, leaving Africa underdeveloped. The wealth generated from these minerals rarely benefits the local communities. Instead, it lines the pockets of those who perpetuate the violence and instability. The true cost of technological progress and personal profit is being paid for in blood. The shiny gadgets and advanced technologies we take for granted come at a steep price, one that is often hidden from view. As we move forward into this new age of innovation, it's crucial to remember the human cost behind our modern conveniences. The Democratic Republic of Congo, under President Félix Tshisekedi since 2019, remains one of the poorest and most unequal countries in the world, despite its natural wealth valued at $23 trillion. Two-thirds of the population live below the international poverty line, struggling to access basic services like healthcare, education, and clean water. Meanwhile, elites with close ties to international corporations and imperialist powers exploit illicit networks to plunder resources through warlords and militias. Tshisekedi is now using recent events to rally support under the banner of national unity. The rest of the world is now catching up with the games being played, and we now see that Rwanda and DRC are a pawn in a much larger game. The intricate web of international politics and economic interests has ensnared these nations, making them focal points in a global struggle for resources and influence. The West is desperate to secure its supply of coltan and cobalt and found a willing partner. These minerals are essential for the production of modern technology, from smartphones to electric vehicles, making them highly coveted in the global market. And by backing Rwanda, they turned a blind eye to human rights abuses and their involvement in the DRC conflict. Western powers are always complicit in dirty wars all around the world, most especially in Africa. The alliances formed are often based on convenience and profit rather than ethical considerations. They choose to prioritize their technological advancement over the lives of innocent Congolese people. The human cost of this relentless pursuit of resources is staggering, with countless lives disrupted and communities destroyed. This is not just about Rwanda and the DRC. The implications of these actions reverberate across the entire continent and beyond. This is about a global system that allows for the exploitation of the developing world to fuel the insatiable consumption of the West. The cycle of exploitation and dependency is perpetuated by a system that values profit over people. A system where profits trump human rights, where convenience outweighs accountability. The voices of those who suffer are often drowned out by the clamor for economic gain. Once again, the African continent is being transformed, as has always been, into a battleground where rival corporations, imperialist powers, and their local proxies wage increasing bloody conflicts. This is the time for every country or partner of Rwanda to step back and stop the killing of innocent lives, all in the name of profits. It is time to put an end to the suffrage of Africans and let Africa have a breathing room to develop itself to where it ought to be as a continent with all its wealth. The future of Africa should be determined by Africans, free from the manipulative grasp of foreign interests. In the face of such adversity and exploitation, the call for change becomes more urgent than ever. The voices of the oppressed are growing louder, echoing through the streets and across social media platforms. They are demanding to be heard, to be seen, and to be respected. This is not just a local issue, it is a global outcry for justice and equality. The people of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, and indeed the entire African continent, deserve more than to be pawns in a global game of power and profit. They deserve to live in peace, to have access to education, healthcare, and opportunities that allow them to thrive. The exploitation of their resources and labor must end. There are glimmers of hope. Grassroots movements, international human rights organizations, and local communities must come together to fight for a better future. These efforts will surely make a difference, shining a light on the path to justice and equality. Some leaders on the continent are demanding transparency, accountability, and systemic change. These leaders are not just speaking out, they are taking action, implementing policies that prioritize the well-being of their people over the interests of powerful corporations. And above all, justice for the countless lives disrupted and destroyed by these conflicts. Memorials and tributes serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of these struggles. But they also inspire resilience and a collective determination to rebuild and move forward. The journey towards lasting change is long and fraught with challenges. It requires unwavering commitment and solidarity from people all over the world. The world must listen and act. International cooperation and dialogue are essential in addressing these issues. Global conferences and summits provide a platform for diverse voices to come together and find common ground. It is not enough to simply be aware. We must advocate for policies that prioritize human rights over corporate profits and sustainable development over exploitation. This means supporting initiatives that empower local communities and promote ethical practices and sustainable development over exploitation. Projects that focus on sustainable farming and community development are crucial in creating a self-sufficient and prosperous future for these regions. As we reflect on the intricate web of power and greed that fuels these conflicts, let us remember that change starts with awareness, but is sustained by action. Each of us has a role to play in this global movement. Let us remember that change starts with awareness, but is sustained by action. Whether through volunteering, donating, or simply spreading the word, every effort counts. Each of us has a role to play, whether through raising awareness, supporting ethical businesses, or participating in community workshops that educate and empower, or pressuring our governments to adopt fairer policies. Signing petitions, attending rallies, and voting for leaders who prioritize human rights are all ways we can contribute to this cause. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you help us reach a wider audience and amplify these important messages. Share it with your friends and leave a comment below. See you in the next video.